Imagine a sport, 20 cars, 2 hours of driving in circles, and almost every year, a dominant player emerges who wins everything without a fight. The name of this sport is Formula-1. If until now, you considered Formula-1 to be the most boring sport on the planet. Like, for example, world chess champion Magnus Carlsen. Then I am ready to change your mind in the next 10 minutes. And I'll start right now. Here's a little task for you. 3 world champions are participating in the current season. One is a 7-time champion, one is a 4-time champion, and one is a 2-time champion. Guess how many of them are in the running for the title? That's right, 0. Moreover, while one won his last title 5 years ago and the second 19 years ago. The third, Max Verstappen, is the reigning world champion, who has simply been unlucky with his car this season. In terms of racing skills, he is head and shoulders above the rest of the field. Even instead of the example of the film with Brad Pitt, where the vast majority of drivers were. He decided to hone his skills on the Spa track in Belgium. Instead of 3 world champions, Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri are fighting for the title this season. The former made his Formula 1 debut in 2019 and the latter in 2023. As you might have guessed, they are members of the same team called McLaren, which has worked hard to build the fastest car this season. Why did they succeed where others failed? Money, engineers, and a little luck. In Formula 1, everything comes down to budget. To build a fast car, you need money, and to make money, you need to build a fast car. It's a vicious circle. Of course, sponsors also play a big role here, but that's a separate conversation. Good engineers and the team as a whole are also extremely important. For example, Adrian Newey is considered one of the best engineers in Formula 1. He spent 19 years at Red Bull, during which time the team's drivers became world champions 8 times. In fact, no other team has won more titles since 2000. Now Adrian Newey has moved to Aston Martin, led by Nick Pilotin, with 2-time world champion Fernando Alonso. What is a 2-time world champion, who is also the most experienced and one of the strongest drivers in the field, doing in a team that struggles to finish in the top 10? In fact, it wasn't always like that. In the past, Fernando even made it to the podium in this car, but time passed, the regulations changed, and Aston Martin simply couldn't build a fast car and adapt to the new rules. You know what else is funny? There's a good chance that McLaren will suffer the same fate as Aston Martin next year. After all, there are going to be major changes in the technical regulations and a rethinking of the concept of Formula 1 cars. Last time, such a change in regulations ended Mercedes' long-standing dominance with Lewis Hamilton, who was replaced by Red Bull with Max Verstappen. Now let's talk about the tracks. What if I told you that despite having the fastest car, McLaren managed to lose to Max Verstappen of Red Bull in 3 races this season? How did that happen? But overall, yes, the car is the fastest. However, even such a car can lose because the engineers simply don't get the settings right. The fact is that the car's settings vary before each Grand Prix. For example, on the Monaco track, due to the abundance of sharp turns, changes are made to the suspension so that the steering responds faster. For example, when a driver turns the steering wheel 90 degrees, the wheels turn at a greater angle in Monaco than on other tracks. Another example is Monza, a track with fewer turns than the route to the nearest convenience store. Here, the team installs special low-load wings. Since there are few turns, maximum speed plays a greater role than downforce. In Mexico, on the contrary, everyone installs wings with maximum load because the air there is very thin, which means that aerodynamic efficiency is reduced. Take a look at the wings yourself. The difference is obvious. Tires are a separate science. Each team has a limited selection of tires of varying stiffness. They need to be distributed wisely between qualifying and the race. Different tracks require different tires. And even the same tire behaves differently on different cars. Added to all this is the race strategy. When to make a pit stop, what tires to use. What to do in the event of an accident on the track. Each team must make at least one pit stop and use 2 different types of tires. This creates an incredible number of tactics that can be ruined by a sudden safety car, which is designed to limit the speed on the track in order to, for example, remove debris after accidents. In a situation where so many interrelated elements can change at any second, mistakes are simply not forgiven. And from all this, one concise conclusion can be drawn. The outcome of a Formula 1 race is influenced by a multitude of factors. For example, individual settings, tires, strategy, track conditions, the overall quality of the team, and how well a particular car suits the track. In addition to all this, the race is influenced by fairly simple events that are familiar to everyone. For example, rain. This means that rain tires must be fitted and driving becomes much more dangerous. Or technical retirement for reasons beyond the driver's control. Very often, cars simply stall in the middle of a race. And of course, what would it be without penalties? Formula 1 penalties are generally quite severe. Here are some reasons why they may be imposed. Minimally exceeding the speed limit when entering the pit lane. Dangerous exit from the pit lane. Crossing the line when exiting the pit lane. Spinning out and returning to the track in a dangerous manner. A mechanic forgot and accidentally touched the car while serving a penalty. Overtaking outside the track. The judges decided that you overtook too aggressively. At the weigh-in after the race, the car was 1 kg lighter. Swearing at a press conference. Well, actually, you don't get a penalty for that, but community service. And these are just the ones I can remember. Formula 1 is not exactly a sport in the usual sense of the word. It's not football, tennis, or basketball. Each of these 3 sports is more like a film. Formula 1 is a series with filler episodes or even filler seasons, where you need to be 100% involved to understand what is happening on the screen. But the moment you start to unravel this huge tangle and realize what is happening on the track and why, a whole new world opens up to you. The world of motorsport. Before you know it, you find yourself wanting to watch other racing series, such as the Indy 500, NASCAR, endurance racing, or even buying a steering wheel and trying to race on those famous tracks yourself. I don't know, maybe I'm exaggerating. I myself have only been watching Formula 1 for a short time, 5 full seasons. However, that was enough for me to dive headfirst into this rabbit hole of motorsport. Give it a try, maybe you'll have similar feelings.
well, we're not friends. You know, we're colleagues and we'll work to